Good morning. Welcome to North Chapel. I am Clara Jimenez, and I am honored to serve as your service coordinator today. Our pastor, Reverend Dr. Leon Dunkley, will be delivering today's reflection. Before we start, a few announcements. If you are new to North Chapel, welcome. Please, we invite you to sign our guest book at the back of the church. And we are looking forward to knowing a little bit more about you. As you know, COVID precautions still apply, and we ask that you remain masked even during singing. We still don't offer coffee hour downstairs, but we invite you to stay after the service and join us for cider outside at the porch. We have a couple of announcements that have been requested. Francis?
I'm here to announce the next series of covenant group meetings that will be starting in November and extending through May. My name is Frances Updegrove, and I joined this church in 2019. And have been involved in the Amazing Grace and in covenant groups since then. It's hard to define a covenant group in a way. There's something indefinable and transcendent about it. It's carefully structured, a discussion of a topic that applies universally, and it's not a conversation, it's more active listening and sharing. And I found that the resources that people bring from their life experience to these meetings has created some moments that seem really transcendent to me. It's been so valuable. So these meetings occur once a month for 7 sessions. And I'm hoping that all of you will consider joining, coming back if you're a previous member, and there are sign-up sheets at the back of the hall. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Ginevra Wetmore. I'm the program director at Sustainable Woodstock. And I first just want to thank you all for donating your use of the space of this church, the basement area, to our window dressers build. It's coming up October 27th to November 2nd. This is actually a miniature window, so they're bigger, in theory, if your windows are bigger. But this is what we'll be building. So it's a window insert, an interior storm window that slides into the frame of folks' windows. It's a build for about 25 local families, and they're all low-income families, or income-sensitive families. So we're really excited to be hosting this build here. This is our first year doing it. And I came today to answer questions and talk to folks. I'll be staying after the service. We're looking for people to help volunteer to build. I'm not a builder and I can do it, so anyone can do it. But if you feel like that's not for you, we also have opportunities to bring food, which I've been told you all are really good at and make really good food. So I just wanted to offer the opportunity, and come chat with me after about that or about anything related to sustainability. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Leon. I just wanted to say thank you to Ginevra, who just delivered that message. I went home to my family to see my mom for a little while and came back with a load of books. She was moving from one apartment to another, and she gave me her art library, which is now in my office. But it was at my home at the time, and I was needing to get it in there, and I was wanting to call someone, but I didn't get around to it, so I just put the books in my car and I drove to church. And Ginevra was here that day, and she was like, "Do you need any help?" Out of nowhere. And I was like, "Please." So we spent the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes moving a lot of books. So I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's good to see you.
The theme of this month is transforming conflict. When I think of conflict, I think of my first days serving as one of the deans at the law school. A more experienced colleague stopped by my office and gave me this book. This book is called Difficult Conversations. And I was like, gee, thank you. But he was right. He knew that working in a community, helping individuals learn and grow, helping colleagues, having conversations, unavoidably brings conflict to the table. Conflict is an inherent aspect of growth, but most of us find it challenging or scary. Some of us fight, and right or wrong, and others, if possible, many of us will prefer to avoid the discomfort, the difficult conversation, the disruption of harmony, even if that harmony is superficial. Either way, we miss an opportunity to learn, transform, or rebuild with roots far deeper than what an apparent harmony could ever provide us. I have a poem now by Rosemary Watola Trommer, The Way It Is. Over and over we break, open. We break and we break and we open. For a while we try to fix the vessel, as if to be broken is bad. As if with glue and tape and a steady hand, we might bring things to perfect again. As if they were ever perfect. As if to be broken is not also perfect. As if to be open is not the path toward joy. The vase that's been shattered and cracked will never hold water. Eventually, it will leak. And at some point, perhaps, we decide that we are done with picking our flowers anyway and no longer need a place to contain them. We watch them grow just as wildflowers do, unfenced, unmanaged, blossoming only when they are ready. And my God, how beautiful they are amidst the mounting pile of shards.
Thank you, choir. Thank you so much. So beautiful. Prayer for peace. Good morning. I wanted to begin. Well, first of all, I just really love you guys. I was sitting in the chair and just like watching us sing and watching us sing Spirit of Life and watching Chloe tell the story and watching the kids' expressions and watching them like have an idea and she would put the microphone in front of their face and they would go. It's awesome. I just thought that was beautiful. So anyway, I just love that sense of laughter and bravery. This morning's reflection is inspired by a man named Adam Kinzinger. Does anybody know that name? Adam Kinzinger is a representative, he's a congressman. He serves Illinois 16th district, he's Republican. District is really sort of south and west of Chicago, and he was one of the very few people to be outspoken and critical of the former president. And he said something really interesting. He did not even run for re-election this year because he knew that he wouldn't get it because the climate is so polarized. And because, well, I'll leave it there. But he said something very beautiful. He said, I've come to believe that people less fear death than they do fear being kicked out of their social circles. So I've been reflecting on that for a while. Certain things that we encounter are just unbelievable, but we hold on to them anyway, like in the movies. Do you know what I mean? We have no trouble journeying to the center of the earth, even though we know that's impossible. And we can get ourselves lost in space without leaving the comforts of our living rooms. We can all become Wonder Woman and we can all become Superman, but we have to give our consent before any of that happens. We have to agree to suspend our disbelief. It's different now. We've crossed some kind of threshold without knowing it, a gentle boundary like the one between late summer and early autumn. It is now life and not art that requires the willing suspension of belief. Lionel Trilling once said that, and I believe him. It is now life and not art that requires the willing suspension of disbelief. A shift has happened. The way things used to be, they are no more. I liked it better when the need for change was obvious and clear, when it reached out and hit me over the head. There's a shift that needs to happen sometimes, I heard my father saying to me many years ago. When I was 17, as the engine of the car that I was driving was revving far too high, my right foot too heavy on the gas pedal, pushing too hard and too fast in second gear. I said there's a shift that needs to happen sometimes, and I think that time is right about now. He repeated himself. I heard him better the second time. So I eased up on the gas with my right foot and I pushed the clutch down with my left and I shifted into third and things got easier. Shifting was obvious and clear when I was learning how to drive a car. It's less obvious and clear in life now and in spirit as we figure out where we're going, as we grow in spiritual maturity, something that writer James Baldwin called the rarest of human endeavors. What do you think? Are we up for it? Shall we make a bold attempt? Would you like to try to explore what Baldwin thought was nearly impossible? Good morning and good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. What did you think of the stone soup story? Have you heard that tale before? I love how Chloe lays it out, the old tale by Marcia Brown. It was written back in 1947, and the original opening words were these: three soldiers trudged down a road in a strange country. They were on their way back from wars. Beside being tired, they were hungry. In fact, they had eaten nothing for 2 days. How I would like a good dinner, the first one said. And a bed to sleep in, said the second. But all of that is impossible, said the third. We must march on. And that they did. They marched on. They marched all day and they marched all night. They marched until they reached a town where the people were afraid. The people of the town feared strangers, and they all had good reasons, as the story clearly explained. The people of the town were frightened because their hearts had been broken once before. This brokenness had not healed, and the people of the town were in need of healing. Have you ever been in a town that was like the one in the stone soup story? Was that town very different from the town in which we live? The people were all afraid, but something shifted within them. Do you know what it was? Do you remember from the story? The idea of stone soup was the turning point. The idea of stone soup, not the stone soup itself, but the idea of it, the making of it. It was the idea of generosity and openness. It was the hope of true community. Fear closes the heart of people in the town sometimes. Fear made them hide their possessions and made them close their doors. They all had good reasons to be sure, but something shifted within them. The idea of stone soup was like magic for them. It was a new idea. It was a novel thought. It delighted the people of the town, and it ignited something within them, a fire that was able to warm the soul. What delighted and ignited the people was a costless idea, a precious and priceless idea that we call trust. The soldiers returning from war did not teach the art of soup making. They taught about something far more beautiful. They taught about true community. The soldiers taught about a nutritious means of overcoming fear. They taught about the unhealthy habits of closing in and shutting down. It's something that happens sometimes in the face of adversity. The soldiers taught the people about the soul engines that lead us forward in life. They taught about fearlessness and hope. When I look at the news these days, I don't see a lot of this. I don't see a lot of fearlessness and hope. I see the opposite. I see a lot of bitterness and rage. It makes me turn to the sports page as quickly as I can, especially because the Mets are doing pretty well. It's nice to have a place where I can get away. So there's a shift that needs to happen, a shift in how we talk about front page politics and power, a shift in how we cultivate community. When I look at the news these days, I see a lot of shaming going on. I see a lot of righteousness. Are you seeing that as well? I see a lot of people pointing fingers and assigning blame, and it makes me wonder about what's really happening. It feels like something is shifting and making us a little anxious, making us a little fearful, like the people in the stone soup story who hid their food and closed their doors and closed their hearts. It's hard when things shift. It's really hard. We like to hold on to things, even when we know that we cannot. You know, you hold on to something your whole life long, and then suddenly something changes. Something shifts, and we have to learn to let it go. And then the unimaginable happens, the unimaginable thing called real life, and we float, we fly, we feather, and we fall our ways down to the ground, tossing and twisting, tumbling and turning, to touch down on the earth with both feet, as if for the very first time. It's hard when things shift, sometimes. I watched the recent Bill Cosby documentary online last month. It was the one that openly talks about his many transgressions over the years. Oh my God. All of the women that he took advantage of. All of the things that he took from them without their consent. Talk about the shifts that need to happen. What he did to all of those women physically, sexually, and emotionally was just heartbreaking. And what Bill Cosby did to me, because of what he did to them, was heartbreaking too, because I had to give up on something that I believed in. I lost something that was precious to me, and that is always painful. It's nothing like the pain that those women endured. But it was painful, nevertheless. I grew up believing in Bill Cosby with all my heart, and I wasn't alone. Cosby was a hero to me, a real-life hero. He was hilarious. And he represented, for me back then, for that young and naive black boy child, he represented an example of what black success looked like in American society. True, smart, witty, non-athletic black male success. There were myriad signposts saying that that kind of thing was impossible. And far too many of those signposts still exist today. Cosby shattered all of that. He broke free of it, and he never broke a sweat. I respected that. It gave me a sense of hope and possibility. So he was a real hero to me, but he was almost a role model. I was lucky in my childhood. I was spectacularly lucky. You know, in our hymnal, these words appear. Seek not afar for beauty. Lo, it glows in the dew-wet grasses all about your feet. I think it's hymn number 77, but I'm not sure. I was never tempted to seek afar for beauty when I was young. Beauty was always so very near at hand. My father was my role model. He still is. I heard him just say, thanks. So I was lucky, really lucky. So I didn't need Bill Cosby in that way, but my father may have. My father might have needed Bill Cosby as a role model. I imagine how my father might have felt after taking in the news about Cosby and the ritual of his sexual misconduct. I say after taking in the news and not after hearing it for the first time. I'm pretty sure that my father would have dismissed the news the first time he heard it. Not proud of that, but I think that's true. It would not have been believable to him, and not because those women who came forward were unbelievable, not at all. They were all so very brave. Their bravery would have troubled him. Yet he still might have dismissed the news or avoided it somehow because he would not have wanted to lose his role model. He would have resisted having to give up on his hero. No one wants to give up on the hero. Such loss presents itself as a devastating experience, so we steer clear. We avoid what we can until, alas, we have to turn and face it. I understand this now, I do. And this new understanding makes me wonder about surprising things. It makes me wonder about people like Ashley Babbitt. You remember her. She was the 35-year-old Air Force veteran who was shot and killed by security forces in Washington, D.C. after she and others breached the Capitol on the 6th of January last year. I think differently now. I wonder how much Ashley Babbitt was actually like my dad in a way. Unwilling to give up on the hero. I think differently now. I think differently about Ginny Thomas, the wife of Justice Clarence Thomas. She just testified before the J6 committee, before Bernie Thompson from Mississippi, and before Liz Cheney from Wyoming. Ginny Thomas told that committee, she told them proudly for some reason, that she believed 2 years ago and that she still believes today that the presidential election was, in her words, stolen. After more than 60 court cases, after more than 60 legal defeats, Ginny Thomas is unmoved. She still can't give up on her hero, so there's a shift that needs to happen, and that's really hard to do. I am not comfortable with these thoughts. They are not sexy to my ego. I don't like sharing them with you, but my spirit cannot escape them. So my soul must take them on, and I must take them seriously. Maybe people like Ashley Babbitt and Ginny Thomas are just like my dad in some way, not yet ready to take in the news upon hearing it for the first time, or for the 5th time, or for the 45th time. As it turns out, still unable to give up on the hero. So there's a shift that needs to happen, and a big one, a pretty big one. It's really hard to make big shifts in life. No one does this well. It turns your whole world upside down, it changes everything you know, and you lose so much. You have to give up so much, and so much falls away. I get that now. Babbitt and Thomas are losing their hero. They will have to give him up, just like I had to give up Cosby when he fell. And that was just as obvious. I had to give up on him, but when I did, something shifted. And there were real consequences of that shift. That happens sometimes. I was situated at the moment of the turning of the northern year, a beautiful author named Russell Banks writes. Banks wrote a book called Cloud Splitter in 1998. He wrote about life in the shoulder season. He wrote, "I was situated at that moment in the turning of the northern year when the end of winter and the start of spring overlap like shingles on a roof, and the natural world seems doubled in thickness and in density. A shift in the direction of the wind cools the air a single degree, and suddenly a puddle of standing water is covered over with a thin skin of ice. That seconds later, as the same wind parts the clouds and opens the sky, melts in the sunlight. At this moment, all is change and transformation." This passage describes a moment in the shoulder season that is on the other side of winter. It places us precariously on the very cusp of change, at the threshold of transformation, where slight shift carries meaning, where subtle change has consequence. As this is as true of the world around us as it is true of the world within. What small shifts in the lives that you lead you to transformation? What can we let go of in order to begin anew? We all have different heroes. This is a pluralistic society. Yet all of the heroes' journeys are the same. We have to walk the lonesome valley, and we have to walk it for ourselves. No one here can walk it for us. So, autumn is a time of change, and this is so obviously true. Many of the trees are telling us this, each tree that is not evergreen. They are changing, we are changing too, letting go of fear and foreclosure, and grabbing hold of something that we can contribute. Bringing what we can contribute to the center of the town and becoming part of a larger community. When the trust is here and with us, we can give of our time and our treasure. We can give of our talents and bring to the table something that is precious to us. And we can share it freely and unabashedly. We don't have to hold back. We can let it go with our whole hearts. I know it's hard. It's really hard to be that open. It's hard to make ourselves vulnerable, especially after we've been hurt, especially after the challenge of these last few years. We want to protect ourselves. We fill with fear, like the people of the town in the stone soup story. It's hard to be open sometimes, but the benefit is so good. We can build a better community and a richer stock by starting out with fearlessness and hope. There's a James Taylor song that I'd like to close with. It's called Let It All Fall Down. He sings, it ain't nobody's fault but our own. Still, at least we could show the good sense to know where we've been wrong. And it's already taken too long, so we bring things to a stop, and we take it from the top. And we let it settle on down softly like the gently fallen snow. We let it tumble down and topple like the temples long ago. We let it fall down, we let it fall down, we let it all fall down. I keep hollering timber, timber. I hope it don't fall on me. Well, I really hope it does. I pray that it does fall down on us, actually. I pray that the temple of our familiar habits falls down all around us until we are left only with that which is honest and true. And then the words from hymn number 77 would make sense. Seek not afar for beauty, lo, it glows in the dew-wet grasses, all about your feet. So there's a shift that needs to happen. And Al Gore agrees. In The Inconvenient Truth, his documentary of 2006, the former vice president invited us to remember what is truly important. He said, you look at the river flowing by, and you notice the leaves rustling in the wind, you hear the birds, you can hear the tree frogs, in the distance you can hear a cow, you can feel the grass, the mud gives a little on the riverbank, it's quiet and it's peaceful, and all of a sudden it's a gear shift inside of you. It's like taking a deep breath and going, oh yeah, I almost forgot about all this. Maybe the hero says within us, maybe it's time for us to remember. Time to remember the peace that lives between us. Time to remember the colors that fall and the beauty that lives. All about our feet. May it be so. Blessed be. And amen.